car of the day. Actually, it's the Miata. I
Wow.
chose the Miata. The Miata is not a star, but it's our star car.
Get the word!
Well, there you go, guys. You don't need a wake-up call. You don't need an alarm clock. All you need to do is set your YouTube machine, auto start at about 9 o'clock, and we will get you up, even though we're a half hour late for our own show. How's it going,
Yeah,
everybody?
right.
Welcome to Mid Nerds,
Seriously.
right?
Yeah.
What's
my
up,
goodness.
Michael Deeb? San Francisco, how's that treating you?
Oh, dude, it's been spectacular. It feels like summer. Like summer arrived out here in San Francisco this week. We get that like 1 week of in the spring that's just spectacular. And you look around and you think, man, if it was like this all the time, you would never be able to afford to live here.
This is not the case all the time.
So crazy. Yeah.
Las Vegas weather has been fantastic as well. We are getting a late run of great weather. Usually by May it starts to get uncomfortable, but we are like barely in the 90s, so the evenings are
that's so nice.
fantastic. Oh my god!
Wow.
Convertible weather. If you got a drop top, now is the time to be in Las Vegas. I got my carbs back. I got my 40 millimeter Webers back for
the Speedster? Oh no, for your 356 Roadster.
Cabrio, yes.
Cabrio.
We had to go through all three models. The Speedster, no. Roadster,
Nope.
Cabriolet. That's right, because
Cabriolet.
why? I'm not a cabrio phobe. It is weird that they made all three versions of convertibles on the Porsches, and that was kind of like the thing to do with 356s was convertibles.
Yeah.
Because back then people weren't cabrio phobes. People liked having open top motoring. That's the way you did sports cars. And I think that's going to kind of carry over into today's conversations.
That's right.
Our big car of the day is a car that kind of has carried on that tradition. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, what we do, everybody, on the show is nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on all the automotive enthusiast auction sites like Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, Rad For Sale, and whoever else has an auction site. There are many. We sift through hundreds of cars that are that go on the auction block every single day, and we bring you the most interesting ones to nerd out about. But we don't just nerd out and jibber jab about these cars and talk about the horsepower and all that stupid stuff. No, we put our mouth where the rubber is. That sounds weird. We make
It does. What is it, Fleet Week?
Yeah, right. We make predictions as to what we think these cars will actually sell for. We play Prices Right with cars on the internet. That's what we do every single day, and we always start out the episode by checking ourselves from the day before. Where were our predictions yesterday? How bad at this are we? We will find out right now, and as it turns out, not very good. All right, yesterday's cars. We had some really cool cars. Play along with us, guys. Hit the subscribe, like, and notification button. And we've got the links to the cars down in the information for the video below. So you can look at the ads yourselves and peruse all the details. And let us know what you think your predictions will be for these cars. Let's see if you're better at this than we are. You probably are. All right. Yesterday's cars, Michael Lee. What do we got?
So yesterday, JP, we started off on Bring a Trailer with a 2014 Porsche Cayenne. This is an E2 platform base model with a 6-speed manual.
Yeah, buddy.
This car is remarkable because it has the manual transmission. In addition to that, this car had ridiculously low miles for a 2014 model. This car had just 54,000 miles. And neither one of us had ever heard of jet green metallic. Not at all a bad color on this car if you're into green. I still think it reminds me of the cars from the 90s, but you like this one quite a bit. The big thing here is that it has an all-black interior and a manual transmission, and that alone is enough to work with. Add to that the low miles and the fact that it's an E2 platform, and you have a recipe for a car that's probably worth some money. So despite our car being in the $20,000 range when we looked at it yesterday, I thought I was going high when I said $36,000. Much to my surprise, you took the over comfortably at 40,000 and said, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if there's blue sky above my bid. And Damn it, JP, you were correct. This thing basically doubled in value in the final hour of the auction. Our car sold on BAT yesterday for a whopping $51,000. Let me repeat that. A 2014 base Cayenne with 54,000 miles sold for $51,000. And make no mistake, it's because of the 6-speed manual transmission. So there you go, JP. Are you at all surprised by that, or am I the only one that still thinks that's a stunning number?
I am not even remotely surprised, to be perfectly
Wow,
honest. This
wait,
car,
damn.
this colorway with a manual.
Golly.
Porsche for a long time was trying to drink their own Kool-Aid and tell us how great PDKs were, and over and over and over, and they just like, oh, PDK is the greatest, PDK is the greatest, and everybody screamed their bloody murder and said, no, we want manual Porsches, and they, to Porsche's credit, they slowly said, all right, we get it, fine, we'll make sure we put manuals. We'll keep manuals in the 911s and stuff. And you can see the new GT3 has manuals in them and everything. So this car, I hope that Porsche is paying attention in this regard too. The Macan would be magnificent with a 6-speed.
With a manual.
Oh my God, how awesome would that be? This car went for as much money as it did because it is the only, how do you get a modern Porsche SUV that's going to be this much fun? I mean, as much as I like the E1 platform better, I think it's a more stout platform. This one being the more modern version with basically the up-to-date interior. This is kind of like a Macan. The Cayennes of this generation were much smaller than the newer ones. And this car is just such a great drive. And with this few miles, we've seen them over and over again. I wouldn't say over and over again, but we do. Seems like every time one comes up, we talk about it. Excuse me. And usually they have 100,000 miles, give or take 10. So to find one with 50,000 miles is no surprise that this one brought, almost double. Because the 100,000 mile ones seem to go for about in the high 20s, low 30s. So for this one to bring 50 with a really unique, interesting, good-looking color, 50 grand, of course. Why wouldn't it? That's just...
Yeah. It's still a regular range color in 2014, but because it's unusual, it's the closest thing to PTS as you're going to find.
Yeah.
I have a trivia question for you, JP. On the E1 and both the E2 platform Cayennes, did they ever come with a PDK? I thought they all came with automatics, and the only PDK went into the Macan in 2015 and 2016. Is that fair to say?
You are absolutely correct. They never put PDK in any Cayenne. Because the Cayennes are designed to be tow vehicles. A Cayenne is a truck, whereas a Macan is more like a car. So you're absolutely correct. But in the era, you're talking 2014, the PDK was around, but they were still doing the Tiptronic. So, it's not that they were trying to convince us all that you should have a PDK in your Cayenne. It was more that just they resisted the whole manual thing, and clearly people wanted these. And with this smaller powertrain, it really is necessary. The 6-cylinder, even in the E2 platform, is underwhelming in this car unless you have it tied to a 6-speed manual transmission. If you have this transmission, you're going to have a good time even with the smaller engine. The direct injection 6-cylinder was a 3.6 liter is enough power. And I think this generation Cayenne is a little lighter than the previous generation, so these definitely have a more spirited feel to them. They're still not like a GTS of the previous generation in the manual, which is like a monster, but that actually brings up an interesting question. This Cayenne E2 with the small engine and a manual
GTS
or the GTS of the previous he's like you saw where the question was GTS of the previous one
all that
monster power.
It's basically, JP, it's the same thing, but it's got 100 more horsepower and almost 100 pound-foot torque more. I'm all about the big numbers because I like to drive fast. And while this would be super fun, I would not kick this car out of bed for eating cookies. If you're giving me a choice, I'll take the E1 with the GTS motor.
I would bet you that if we saw an E1 GTS manual with low miles, which we never do, all the ones that we see that hit these auctions that bring $30,000, $40,000, they all have in the 80, 90,000 miles or more. So a 50,000 mile GTS manual. Whoo, what do you think that would bring? What would you guess?
Well, it's a 4.8 liter V8, right?
Yeah.
All right, so $48,000.
There you go. Good bet. You don't think it would beat this? I think it would be over 50.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be more than.
If it's an out of range color, yeah, for sure. But if it's just black or white, whatever.
I don't know. All right. So we spent a lot of time on that car. Let's really rip through. Yeah, that was really unique. Yeah, that was a great way to start the week.
And you won that one, JP. Just for the record, the one that you didn't win, which I'm going to laugh at, is that 1988 300ZX that was on Cars and Biz yesterday. I said 11,000. You nominated this car, fawned over it, and then only bid $9,500, and the car brought 10,500. So I beat you to the punch on that one, which makes me laugh. Now, in fairness, it was only bid to that number. The reserve was set, and it did not meet the reserve on Cars and Bids yesterday. So that car will remain available for sale. 10,500 did not bring it home. So there you go.
The big stupid wheels killed it.
Yep. And then yesterday, JP, we visited Rad For Sale because they had an unusual green 1995 Dodge Viper with about 28,000 miles, I think. This car was in British Columbia, was still in British Columbia. So the winner of this auction, if he's a U.S. citizen, is probably going to bring this car into the United States. Keep in mind that expense will be right around the corner. I said 25,000. You took the over at 27, and I only just beat you at 25.5. This car sold. So again, anytime Rad For Sale closes a car and it sells at auction at the Hammer, I congratulate them and tip my hat because I know that's not easy to do. So well done, guys. Clearly it met the reserve, so the consignor's happy, and congratulations to the buyer. You bought a first-gen Viper for just $25,000. That's not bad.
That's pretty good. I'm shocked that even made it to reserve. Right? Honestly, that's interesting because that's a lot of car for $25,000. Not my jam. Not a big fan of early Vipers.
Yeah.
But for $25,000, again, in a not a normal colorway, something that's a little unique. That's strong, man. That's going to look good at a Rad Wood event coming soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And there's one coming in July. Let's be there.
Yep.
All right. Also, we go back to Bring a Trailer, and we looked at a 2004 Porsche C4S. If I remember correctly, JP, this car had like 24,000 original miles in light silver with black interior. Highlights here were the manual transmission, the C4S platform itself, and the the sport exhaust, which are really cool. You are not a big fan of the tufted leather. For me, the big thing is you got to get the seats. You got to get the sport adaptive seats, and this one did not have it. So this had standard seats with tufted leather, and I agree with your take that they should have spent the money on the better seat, and the hell with the leather. So anyways, there you go. This was a really nice car. There was no record of the IMS bearing being done, but this car was in spectacular condition, and so we bet the moon on this one. I said 54. You said 50. Both are kind of high water marks for C4Ss, even in their climb right now. That's like the top of the market. And, man, we were right on the money. This car sold for $53,500, JP, for a car that needs a bearing. How crazy is that?
That's unbelievable. I don't know if they ever made sport adaptive seats in this generation. Did they?
Oh, well, anyways, they had
seats,
I meant the bigger seat is all I'm talking about.
Okay.
They call them sport adaptive today, but I just meant the seat with the shoulders. This seat has the hips, but it doesn't have the shoulders. That's the big thing.
Adaptive seats always drive me nuts. You go around a corner. The first time I was ever in a car with adaptive seats, it freaked me out. It was some kind of BMW, and I go diving in a corner. I'm like, whoa, what's that? Oh, my gosh. I thought maybe somebody left a snake in the car or something like that. What is happening? It was like I was not expecting the seat bolsters to be squeezing in on me. I was like, man.
I had an M5 that had that, and you put it in sport mode, and then the seats move unless you defeat the seat thing. And so I did the same thing. I turned, and the car, it's like it gooses you right, under your armpit. You're like, what the F is that?
It's like,
so
do I
fight
fight
the
car or get onto it? It's like, ooh, hey, baby.
I pulled over, turned it off, and never turned it on again. I do not like that. The seat does not need to move. I've got enough movement as it is.
Yeah.
Our last car of the day, JP, was a BMW. It was a 2008 M5 on Cars and Bids. Again, a low mile example, like 57,000 miles on this car. It did have quite a bit of service recently over the last 2 or 3 years. The interior of this car kind of killed it, though. It was like a light beige interior with a black dash and light wood. It was not an attractive color combination. The white paint, on the other hand, is actually unusual on this generation of the M5. But anyway, these cars don't hold a lot of value. That sequential manual gearbox has always been sort of the weak link on these cars. Now, again, if you're driving it at 10 tenths, they move. But in all other driving, that gearbox is clunky and junky, and it's not the one you want. So it kind of ruins the experience of driving this normally aspirated V10 that makes 500 horsepower. I still thought this car would bring 25,000. You were more conservative at 22, and you were almost on a Yahtzee. The car sold for $22,500.
Wow.
3 wins for me, 2 wins for you. I'm off to a good start. You're also off to a decent start. There you go. That's our Monday.
We've got some parity there. How many times at a car show have you seen a car and was like, that's a pretty cool car, right? Let's say you see a C4S that's really nice, and it's in a row of a bunch of other cars, and you're like, man, that's kind of cool. And you're like, all right. It's kind of like you walk up to it and you reserve your excitement for the car until you can peer inside the window and see if it's a Tiptronic or if it's a manual. You know what I mean? And you're like,
yeah, that's absolutely true.
And then you just walk away and just out of your mind. It doesn't, the car doesn't exist anymore. I feel like this M5 that we just talked about is exactly like that. A white M5. Oh, wow. That's really pretty. I'm not going to get too excited. I'm going to reserve. I'm going to look. It's a SMG. Last night I was at, they do a little car show at the Red Rock Country Club. I think it's like the second Monday of every month. And someone had an E46 BMW M3, and it was a black on black convertible car that was just spectacularly it was just immaculate. It was just like, it's so hard to keep black clean, and this thing was just like gleaming clean blackness. And I'm like, oh man, and I was just like got so excited, and I'm like walking up to it because you just never see clean one of those anymore. And I looked inside, I'm like, oh god dang it, SMG.
That's like when you get off the tube in London and you see a really cute girl and she smiles at you and she's got banged up teeth. It's like you get excited that you see this really pretty girl and she's got eye contact, but then you got to wait and see if it's all ruined or not.
Man, good point. Yeah, that's there are other analogies that you could come up with similar to that, but we're not going to do that on a family show like ours. All right, well, that was yesterday's cars, guys. This is your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day. See what we do here? We pick the cars for you. There's so many cars for sale today. How are you going to go through all of them and find the most interesting ones? You don't have to do that. That's why nerds are here. That's why you hit the subscribe, the like, the notification button. That notification button lets you know of the freshest nerds available, because old, stale, yesterday's nerds are no good. You need today's nerds. And let me tell you, we do this show live at about 9 o'clock every single day, and you aren't going to know that it's here unless you have that notification button. It's going to, once we do the show, then it goes onto our channel, but it can take hours for that show to populate on our channel. You need the notification button because that will let you know that there's new nerds. Get the new fresh nerds. That's us, Bid Nerds today. So let's get to the fresh cars, the most interesting cars of the day. The car that I picked as kind of our main car of the day, and this is exemplary of how people always go, well, man, there was like a $400,000 McLaren on some site. Why didn't you talk about that one? It's like, because that's not the most interesting car. Just because it's expensive or some, douchey exotic thing does not make it interesting. It just, dollar signs aren't everything, right? So we talk about cars, a lot of times the cars that we can all, that are attainable. That's what makes these websites interesting, is because you watch these auctions and you're like, you know what? I could actually get that car. And how many times tell us your story, guys. Have you ever been on one of these websites on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer and saw a car and be like, oh man, that's really cool. I haven't seen one of those since high school. And then you like an hour later you bought the damn Scirocco or something. I really want to hear more stories about that kind of thing, because I know it's happened to me. This first car that we're going to talk about is a car that has been talked about over and over and over again, but I think it's a gateway drug. Let's talk about this open top car.
Haven't they made 1 million of these things already, JP? Haven't they built the 1 millionth?
That's a good question. I'm sure they have.
I think they have.
More of these than I think Beetles now. I don't know.
I don't know if there's more than Beetles, but I think they hit their huge mark on this. But what we're looking at, JP, is the original 1992 Mazda MX-5 Miata. This is the first generation car. And what's remarkable about this car that's on Cars and Bids is that our car in Greeley, Colorado has just 24,600 original miles. And this thing is absolutely a 30-year-old walk in time. I mean, take a look at those cloth seats. Take a look at that stubby little plastic shifter and that big steering wheel. And this one is even on steel wheels. This was a bargain basement Miata that probably had an MSRP, JP, of around $14,000 or $15,000. And I'm telling you, this thing is absolutely stunning for how clean it is and how original it is. And it's funny, when you look at a Miata, almost all of them are like lowered. They've got exhaust. They've got, they're all chipped up or painted up or whatever. The wheels have been modified or the windows are tinted or something. It's funny when you just look at the original Miata and take it for what it is. I'd say that the design and the simplicity has held up really well. That is an attractive car. Now, look, you're not going to win me over because it doesn't have enough power for me at 116 or 14 horsepower, whatever it is. It can barely get out of its own way. But these things really do handle, and they absolutely are fun to drive on a back road. That being said, I don't want to buy this car, but I do appreciate it for what it was. The fact that Mazda beat Europe at its own game by building the romance of a small little roadster in the reliability and packaging of the economic Japanese formula at the time. They sold these cars all over the world, and they were a massive commercial success for Mazda. And I tip my hat to them. And it's fun to kind of go back and look at this really clean example in Colorado and say, yeah, that thing, it really did sort of set hearts on fire, and everybody wanted one. A stripper car, if ever there was one, the Mazda Miata. This is a no-reserve auction, JP. It's sitting at $10,250 on 13 bids. MSRP was around 14 grand. The big question here is it going to bring MSRP or is it going to bring more? What do we think? What would somebody pay if they could go back in time and buy one brand new all over again? What would they pay for it? And that's what this auction, this lot is all about. There's an hour to go too.
You know, this car is so nice. So often people talk about the whole thing of, what's the best sports car to start a race car habit. I don't know if you could find a better one than this. The only problem with this one is that it might be too nice. It's like, do you really want to ruin this car? It's got I don't think this one has power steering either. Some of the 92s did not have power steering, which is perfect for racetrack. There's no AC in this car. This is, when you say stripper, you mean it. And we're not talking about some girl with daddy issues on a pole. We're talking about a car that has no options at all. And when you're talking about a car to take on a track, that's exactly what you want. If Miata made an RS, if Mazda was smart back then, they would have called this their sport version or R or something like that, and put just slightly lower springs on it just to make everybody pay more. But back then, even Porsche wasn't charging more for RSs; they were charging less. And this car, oh man, I mean, look, you say it doesn't get out of its own way. I disagree. This car is not fast by any means, but it doesn't weigh anything, and they actually feel really good. Even guys our size are going to have a great time in one of these. And boy, I'm excited to see this car in this condition with this many miles. I think, unlike what Cars and Bids usually does, I think this car is going to have a big run.
Really? All right.
Yeah. What do you? Where do you think this car is going to land?
Well, last night I put $14,000.
Yeah.
Because that was MSRP. But I could add a couple dollars to my bid. I could be talked into that. If you think it's going to have a big bid, then I think it's going to have a big bid. I'll go $15,000.
$15,000. Oh my gosh! I'll take your bid. 14. I'll go under. I think it's going to be big. Duped you into a high.
That's so funny. You chicken shit. I can't believe it. I thought you were going to go 20 grand.
No, I don't think it's. I don't see. Boy, how funny would it be if it did? If I go under, I am still not confident in the platform. I think this late in the game, it's rare that you see prices get much more than 20% in the last moments of the auction. You don't see these big runs where you get double the money. At least not often. Sometimes it happens, but it's pretty rare. This is a car that could, though. I mean, if this car, of all the cars that we've seen on Cars and Bids in a long time, this car, I think, has the highest potential to really blow both our bids out of the water. It just depends on who's out there looking for this thing. Because there's a nostalgia play here, too.
Let me go on the record that if this car were on Bring a Trailer, I would fully expect it to bring over $18,000, $19,000 easy. Like, it would not surprise me if this car brought 24 grand on Bring a Trailer. And I think this guy's leaving $10,000 on the table by putting it on Cars and Bids. I think it's a huge mistake. This is a really special example, and he effed up by putting it on Doug DeMuro's site. And he even went no reserve. I mean, it's like, does this guy need the money or what?
And once again, terrible photos. These photos are not really doing the romance. You know, when this car came out, like you said, they beat the Europeans, right? In the early 90s, you know, we just came out. If you were alive back then and like cognizant, right? If you were actually not a child, you remember going through the 80s and having friends that had MG midgets and Austin Healey's and Fiat Spiders,
Triumph
TR5s, TRs, whatever, And you remember all those people, myself included, pushing those cars and just struggling and having the worst time trying to keep them on the road. And they were so much joy. Yeah, they were so much. It was such a good time when they worked, but so much pain that you had to pay for it. This car came out with all that romance, all that beauty, and none of the work. This was just like, how is this possible that nobody else did this before? And so everybody wanted one of these.
And unsurprising,
dudes, everybody,
Yeah, unsurprising, when they made their first special edition, it was British racing green with a tan top and tan interior and wood shifter and wood brake handle. So, they were absolutely – they beat the British at their own game and sold them to the Americans, and they were reliable. I mean,
every single magazine –
you read in it and fired up.
Every single magazine, you're absolutely right. Every single magazine at the grocery store magazine rack, you know, Car and Driver, Motor Trend, all those, they had a picture of a ZR1 on the front, and then in a little box was a Miata, and that was basically how you wrote a magazine for 5 years in the late 80s and early 90s. That's all you had to do. Is if you had a picture of a ZR1 and a Miata, you could sell a ton of magazines, no problem. Oh man,
this car
Motor Trend owes Miata money.
Too.
Yeah,
this would be a great car to bring to Radwood. I think it'd be super fun, super fly with the Reebok Velcro high tops.
Heck yeah! All right, what else we got? We got some pretty interesting cars.
All
Did
right,
we
JP,
go to its counterpart, the real convertible sports car?
Yeah, I think so. This car, JP, is everything to me. I love this thing. What we're talking about is on Bring a Trailer. It's a 1988 Porsche 911 Carrera. What's the big deal? Well, this particular cabriolet is an M491 turbo look package that also has the M470 spoiler delete option on this car. It has both the certificate of authenticity and the what do they call the other one? The production certificate that Porsche does now. I don't know, the other stupid one, but the COA is the one you want, and it's got that on there that it's a spoiler delete, and I think that's kind of neat. This is a rare car. So see if you can follow me on this one, JP. About 1,500 cars were built by Porsche from 1984 to 1989 that included coupes, cabriolets, and Targas in that order, and then most of them were made in 84, and the least amount were made in 89. So you divide that 1,500 number over 3 models, mostly coupes, then a few cabs, and then a couple of Targas. And then you did the most of them in 84 and the least of them in 89. And you get a sense that this 88 cab is probably one of like 60 or something. I mean, they didn't make that many of them at all. And then when you add to it, now I'm talking M491s, right? And then when you add to that it has the M470, and it's probably just one of like a handful. This is, by the production numbers, a extremely rare car. Our car has 83,000 miles on it. It's offered to us out of Houston, Texas, but it's titled in California. There's a dealer down in Texas that's got all these cars called Driver Source, and this is their spring mortaring collection, and they've released all these cars with one marketing campaign on Bring a Trailer, and there's some really nice cars in there. But this one is arguably the most fun because this is a great driver with the 3.2 liter and the G50 gearbox. It's a great looker because it's got the wide body and the spoiler delete, and it's a really nice condition. It has had some paint work done, but overall this is a really nice car, and it's all in original condition. So there you go. What do you think something like this is going to bring, JP? Is this, with some paint work and some miles on it, is this going to fail to be a $100,000 car? Because by the production numbers, I think this should be well over a $100,000 car all day long. And it's definitely in a desirable Guards red. Not my favorite color, but it's the color a lot of guys want. So there you go, JP. What do you think? Take it away.
Yeah, this is the ultimate sports car from the 80s right here. This car is why the Miata is so popular, is because, everyone wanted a bright red drop top car, and here it is, the car that everyone wanted, but not everybody could afford this thing. Yeah, but you could afford that Miata that we just talked about before. This car is the one you had on your wall. This is the car that had, all the 80s posters that we had on our walls where the blonde was in the passenger seat, and, and the overhead shot saying everybody wants one. Yeah, they were talking about the car, sure. Look,
I thought it was a tailored suit.
yeah, exactly. That's precisely what we're talking about. Yeah, I mean, you could fawn all day. The G50 transmission, I mean, this is the best of the best. It's a wide body car. All the things that you mentioned about it are absolutely why people want it. But on top of that is not unlike the Miata, this car is a reliable sports car. The turbo version that it's made to look like is problematic. There's no way around it. I love turbo 911s, but turbo 911s are finicky. They're more like their British counterparts than they are the venerable 911s that you can just trust to start every darn time. You go out to get in this car, it's going to run, it's going to get you where you want to go, and you're going to have a great time doing it, and it's going to last for hundreds of thousands of miles. Yes, the maintenance is going to be a heck of a lot higher than a Miata, but these are equally as reliable vehicles. I think this is the car that almost the car that started it all. You could say the car that started it all would be the 930, but this is kind of like the ultimate version of it. The drop top. This is the visceral experience that everyone talks about. People are like, oh, hard tops are better, blah blah blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, but nobody can see you. You're not getting the air. You're not having that show off thing. Part of the fun of these cars is rolling up somewhere and saying, hey, look at me, I'm in a 911. Well, here it is. Everyone's going to see you that you're in a 911, and this is about the coolest one you can get. Boy, this thing's going to bring some big money. What do you think it's going to land?
I wonder if this one's going to break the $100,000 mark, JP. So for whatever reason, I'm a little bearish on this one. I guess I'm going to say $94,000. JP, our car has an hour to go, and it's at $79,000. And don't get me wrong, it's got some bid. No, it's a little light. It's 11 bids.
How many miles does it have on it? One more time.
83,000.
Yeah, I mean that's perfect driver miles. I don't think it breaks 100 at that with those miles. But why not? Jeez,
it should. It absolutely should. And if it does, I'll be with egg on my face because allegedly I know Porsches or something. But whatever, it should break $100,000. But I don't know, just something. I don't know. We'll see.
What was your bid?
94,000.
94. Yeah, I'm going to go higher. I'm going to say I don't think it's going to break 100 either. I'll go 95. Yeah. I'll just go the $1,000 over and say we're battling on this one. I think you and I are going to be duking out. One of us could get a Yahtzee. Right. I think what would be really chicken-ash would be like going 95.5 or whatever, and then getting a Yahtzee. Now watch, it's going to get 95.5, and we're like, oh, I could have got an extra. I don't know. What a fantastic car. That is relatively low miles for
I would
the year.
love to have that car. Love to have that car.
Yeah.
I love the spoiler delete on the back. I would put the front lower air dam back on the front. I like the way that looks and whatever, but that's just me.
Yeah, without the wing, looks so good on a cab.
Super hot.
It's just, H4 headlights.
That Zenith shot, go back.
What's that?
Go back 4 shots. 2 more. And then the next one. There it is. There's the shot. No. Back the shot from the Zenith looking down over the car is your everybody wants one shot. Go one more forward.
Oh, this one. Yeah. Yep.
That's the shot.
That's the shot. Yeah,
that's the shot. Everybody wants one.
Car. Yeah.
Look at that car. I mean, look at the hips. That's a gorgeous car. Well done,
having
Porsche.
a good time. All right.
Absolutely.
What else we got? See, I mean, now it's just a letdown. We gave you these 2 fantastic drop top cars. All the cabriophobes they already dipped out at this point. They're like, I have to have a coupe because it's more rigid. Yeah, whatever. Your pleated pants don't need to go around a corner that fast, you moron. Anyways, moving on. What else we got? Let's go to.
All right. Yesterday, JP, on Bring a Trailer, we saw a 2004 Porsche 911, a 996 C4S with 25,000 miles, bring $53,000. P Car Market has a 2002 996 C4S with $69,000 in seal gray metallic, offered out of Tracy, California. That's out in cowpunk town or whatever, cowpoke, whatever you call it. Anyway, it's out in the valley. This car, again, at the very bottom of the ad, it says that there is no record of the IMS bearing having been done on this car. So what you're looking at is a 70,000 mile 996 that needs an IMS bearing. It happens to be a C4S. It happens to be in a beautiful seal gray metallic. And that's basically it. This car is bone stock. Everything else looks pretty nice. I would say that it's not as clean as the car we saw yesterday, but it also doesn't have the same low miles as the car we saw yesterday. So the question is, with IMS and the model being the same, if you add a few more miles and you throw it on P-Car Market, how much less do we expect this guy to get for his return on investment? Again, yesterday's car brought well over $50,000. Do we think this car stands to be in the same neighborhood, or is it going to suffer because of the miles and because of the platform?
Absolutely, it will. The same horrible pleated leather interior.
Exactly.
I mean, the rest of it is okay. I'm not a big fan of the steel gray. People love it, so I know I'm in the minority on this one. But this car, this is a perfect driver. Didn't you have a
GT3 in this color?
I did, yeah, and I would have preferred it to be in polar silver or Arctic silver or something else. Yeah, the gray is fine. I mean, again, it's not the end of the world. This is a really nice car. Whoever gets it, I like them with this many miles. I feel like you get a lot of the service sorted out. I don't know how deep you went into the ad to see if it had any of the service done. That hideous, horrible, terrible stereo in there. I'd way rather have the stock one. It's always. I'm glad this photo of the cup holder is here, showing how dirty and gross the cup holder is. This just shows you how little attention these guys, whoever owned this car, paid to it. Yeah, I mean, this car was probably not fully detailed, but, cleaned for pictures and everything like that, but they didn't do the work showing these cup holders, which are usually always broken. You can just see this grossness is probably what the car usually is like. So I don't like this car. Terrible stereo, no options, no IMS. You're right there in that area where you better get it done.
Right.
And it's on P-Car Market. Where do you think it's going to land?
Well, I'm going to give you two numbers because I think this car is going to wind up in the deal tank.
Yeah.
I imagine this guy has seen some C4Ss bring big money lately, and now he's thinking, I got one of them in the garage, and my car's worth $45,000. No, it's not, son. Yeah. Your car is not going to bring $45,000, I don't think. If it does, I'll be sitting here with egg on my face, and it's happened before.
Yep.
But I think this car will stall out at $38,000 and wind up in the deal tank for $45,000 or more.
Yeah, my number
38
was
38 is my bid. Yeah.
38 is a good bid. That's my number's 39. That's kind of what I had in my head already.
Okay.
I think it's I don't think it meets reserve. I think the person thinks it's worth 50, and it ain't. So
I think he thinks he's worth 45, and I don't think he's going to get it.
Yep. Nope. And shouldn't. If he does, whoever spends that kind of money on this particular C4S, man, I know they're hot. I know they're the thing to get right now, but you are jumping on the bandwagon. That is wait for a better one. A better one will come along for that money. And this should be, I mean, look, 6 months ago, this was a $29,000 car. 6 months ago. We're not talking about, 6 years ago or 4 years ago or something like that. We're talking about last summer, I remember seeing these people struggling to get 30, and someone came to me who was selling one, and I should have bought it at the time. He was all excited because he got 29. He's like, hey, I got 29. I offered him 25, and he was like, oh. I'm like, yeah, good for you. Probably if you had waited a couple of months, you would have got 45. And so would I. So anyways, yeah, this is great car all around, but just not the one I would pick if it's going to be a premium. Now, if this thing does fail, if it does stall out and you can get this in the 30s, all right. A coupe with decent miles,
if you can buy this car for
38 or 39,
yeah,
we're not knocking the car. It just needs love.
Yeah.
All right.
It does need some love.
And
when we get the bid in our studio,
sucks.
we need to get a crystal ball so we can predict car values. That would help us in the studio. The platform, you probably wind up leaving a little money on the table. We'll see what happens. It did go up overnight. Currently it's at $31,996 with 2 hours to go. So it's showing some traction, but we'll see what happens. All right, JP, you picked a really cool car. This is a 1989 Saab 900 Turbo SPG. This guy painted his wheels kind of a dark brown color. Our car has 172,000 miles on it out of Sandy, Utah. So I just wonder if there's any value left. We've seen lower mile versions of this car get close to $20,000. But I'm not sure that this one's going to get here. This car just looks like it's got a little bit of wear and tear on it. That driver's seat looks a little depressed. But there's a lot to like here with the 2-liter turbo and the aero kit that came with these cars. This was kind of, I don't know, like the peak of that 900 series was this model. So we love them. They're great driving cars. They do have crazy torque steer in the front wheel drive system. So like when you're going around a turn and you open the throttle and the turbo kicks in, that steering wheel wants to straighten itself out. So make sure you got a firm grip on it. But these are fun to drive on a back road. They're fun to drive in town. They do make a lot of torque. But this one, I don't know. It's just not – it's too mobbed out for me. It's not my style. But anyway, there you go, JP. There's your car. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely love Saab 900 SPGs, no doubt about it. Magnus Walker, I believe, is doing his new Haggerty show, the next big thing, I think is what they're calling it.
Right.
And I believe the Saab 900 is on that list. So this car, I think, is finally having a moment. So the values of these are hopping up. I just don't think this one's going to bring big money because this one's been too oddly modified. This vent on the side, they were never black. It's an SPG model. The aero kit along the bottom, they were always gray. Didn't matter. You could have a yellow SPG, a red SPG, green SPG. The cladding across the bottom was always gray. So this one has been repainted at some point, and you don't know, did they repaint the entire car or just the cladding? The fit of the front hood here is not exactly closing all the way. This car has been beat. These were cheap for a long time, and this one just does not look like it was well cared for. This would be a great mobber, something to just have a lot of fun in and beat the crap out of, but only if you can get it for a relatively low price. It's nice to see the dashboard isn't cracked up because that's hard to find. The old what Saab used to say, born from jets. It really does feel like you're in a jet fighter cockpit with the way the windshield just kind of like wraps around you. It's not unlike a 911 in a lot of ways. It feels like it's chiseled from a single piece of steel. I just can't tell you how much fun these are to drive. If you've never driven one and you get a chance to give it a go, you're going to have a much more fun time than you thought. But this one's just not the one unless you can get this car, if it goes for a low price, then this is a good time. But I would not pay the premium that this car might get today because they are getting a little bit of a buzz. Where do you think? Yeah, I
mean, it's got an hour to go, JP. It's already up to $12,250. I put $14,000 last night. I feel like my bid is in jeopardy of getting superseded. But I just don't see a lot. I don't know. I just don't see a value in the $16,000 or $17,000 range. Not for this one. So I'm going to leave my bid there and see what happens.
What was your bid? 15 grand?
14 grand.
14
Should have
grand.
been 15 grand. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the 15, I guess. I mean, 170,000 miles. That's a lot of miles too. I mean, we are on
BAT.
BAT. Yeah. So all right, if it has any chance, this is where it's going to get it.
Yep.
And like I said, these are hot. These are so hot right now. But this one's a little bit. This one's a little bit derelict in its condition. It's wearing a plastic trash bag and trying to look pretty.
My God.
It's not there.
You can derelict my Saab.
You know what would be cool with this car? Here's the plan for this car. If you could get this car for a decent price and not overpay for it, this is the car you safari. A front-wheel drive Saab 900 cool. SPG that you don't care about would be so fantastic in the dirt. These are really popular in Montana because any place that you get a lot of snow, these are so great because
the front wheel drive.
Not just the front wheel drive, but the engine on these, it's an inline 4-cylinder, right? So most 4-cylinder front wheel drive cars have a horizontal engine. These are inline, and the engine is slanted, so it can be very low.
Oh.
And that gives it a low center of gravity. It's also very close to the firewall, so it gives it a nice balance. And having the low and the engine directly on top of the driveline, not unlike a 911, means that all that weight is on top of the traction wheels, which is why it has the bad torque steer, but happens to be really good for traction and will mob through snow. You do not need an all-wheel drive version of this car. They don't make one. You don't need four-wheel drive. This thing will mob up anything. They're really good in the off-road. So in the sand and the dirt and like a fire trail or something like that with some knobby tires and jack it up, make a safari version of this car. This car, you don't care if it gets rock chips and all that stuff, put a big roof rack on it. And if you're a short guy like me, that hatchback is huge back there. You fold those back seats down, you could camp in this thing. Man, now I'm gonna have to buy this car. Dag nabbit.
Wow. He's got the louvers for the rear windows that
really?
the back.
That's so dope.
Really cool. Yeah, that'd be really cool. So
okay.
Neat car. All right. Well, we'll see what happens, JP. I suspect somebody might go right past our bids just because it's on BAT and it's close, but we'll see.
If you're watching this show, you go, oh, wow, that guy's right. I can do all that stuff. That guy owes us money. Saab guy owes us money for sure.
Sure does.
Right. Last car of the day. What do we got?
All right, JP. Last car. Tutto bene. We have an Italian car, JP. It's a 1973 Alfa Romeo Montreal, offered to us out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The car is showing 73,000 kilometers. But it's probably true mileage unknown, and I'm guessing it's probably 173,000 kilometers. The Montreal was originally sold new in Italy and then brought over to the United States in the 1980s. This car uses a 2.6-liter V8 with a 5-speed manual transmission. That 2.6 was designed for the racing Alfa Romeo 33 Corsa and Stradale versions. But they took that motor, slightly detuned it, and put it in this car, which was made for greater production, not mass production, because they didn't sell a lot of these, but they certainly sold 10 times more Montreals than they did 33 Stradales, which was just a homologation special. So it's a very exotic aluminum V8 that's high revving and fun to drive. And the Montreal was designed by our second favorite designer, Marcello Gandini, who worked for Bertoni. You might recognize other designs of his, like the Lamborghini Miura, the Lamborghini Countach, the Lancia Stratos, the Di Tommaso Pantera, the Renault R5 Turbo, and the first generation BMW 5 Series, which is an unusual sedan to his array of very exotic-looking coupes. But he also penned the Montreal, and I think this car has kind of aged well, and it's starting to come into its own. We've seen Montreals bring over $100,000. This one looks to be in very nice condition, but it has definitely been redone over its lifetime. And if you look under the carpets, there were some weird, floorboards that look like that might have had some body work done. It wouldn't surprise me if this car had rust at one point in its life and it's been repaired. But when you go back to the engine right there, JP, that air cleaner and those valve covers on the motor were never red. So somebody modified that over the years, and that kind of stuff kind of bothers me. If you're looking to spend, a car like this should be worth somewhere between $75,000 and $95,000. If you're going to spend that kind of money, I want to see it put back to original. And when I see that sort of stuff, that kind of offends my sensibilities when you're trying to get retail for the car yourself. So good driving car, very, very good driving car. Not a great driving car. This is not going to keep up with the 911. But this is a very good driving car. Absolute head turner. You're welcome at every Italian car show in the world because it's so unusual. It's slightly exotic, but it's not super exotic. So there you go. The Alfa Romeo Montreal, unloved, but starting to find a home. Will this one find a home in your garage, JP?
I sure wish I could afford it. I think this is one of the most beautiful cars of all time. This thing is just so cool looking. And you're right. I think it's having a moment. How can you not love this thing? It looks like a Jalpa with the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought it was at first glance. I love these crazy vents on the side and just the wacky Italian sensibilities from the 70s that this car represents. This is just so bitchin'. I mean, I honestly, as hot as it looks in red and it's very sports car, I feel like if this car were in silver or some kind of neutral color, it
black.
would just, or black, it would just look great in like a Matrix movie or something like that. It's
black.
Just,
it was in Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron in black.
Well, there you go. Exactly.
In the very end of the movie when she gets onto the airplane with John Goodman. She gets out
Ah,
of that car and over to the airplane. That car had a cameo in a contemporary movie, which is crazy. Those little turbine wheels, JP, the little
yep.
14 inches, those are made by Campagnolo, and they're magnesium, and they're probably worth 8 to 10 grand. Those little
Wow.
14s. But yeah, there's just really cool pieces on this car everywhere. The little NACA duct on the front end,
Yeah.
and those little louvers on the front headlights. Those little
Yeah.
louvers slide back into the bodywork. When you turn
Wow.
the lights on, those louvers retract.
Nice. I just want to be
Cool
in this
stuff.
car. I just want to drive around.
Yeah.
I don't care that it's not going to keep up with a 911. You know, if you buy this car, you also have a 911 or something else that's going to go around corners.
That's right.
This would be just the coolest thing to have in the garage to take out on that special occasion or to go to the event. I'm sure it's not reliable at all. I'm sure it's just hideous to keep going, but boy, just talk about a romantic car. I want to be in there and just live in there.
You gotta live within towing distance to a really trusted Italian mechanic. So like for me out here in the Bay Area, being close to Rafi, I'm eligible to get this car.
Yeah.
But you out there without us, we know all the German techs out there, but I don't know that we
Yeah.
know the Italian techs too well. So I don't think you're eligible to buy this car. So
No
if
one
you
would
buy
have a
it,
clue
you
what
have
to
to
do
keep
with
it here. Yeah,
I
exactly.
can't imagine this thing would like the heat too. I gotta think.
No,
that
it wouldn't.
I mean,
It
Alphas
absolutely-
in general overheat, and this one, and 115 degrees, this thing's gonna just melt. All right. Well, as beautiful it is, it does have some bumps and bruises, some things that we don't like about it, some odd details that were modified. Does that represent a possibility of a value for someone, an opportunity to get into something this beautiful and rare, or is it just going to be nobody wants it?
Let me tell you a story. About 2014 or 2015, somebody sold a Porsche 911 Turbo, like a 930 Turbo, for 150 grand. And then every one of the other 10,000 idiots in this country that has one in the garage thought his was also worth $150,000. And the market was flooded with them, and the market recessed. And I think the same thing's happened here, where really nice ones of these are starting to bring like close to $100,000. And I think all of them are coming out. Like the guy's got one in the garage. He's never fully finished it or whatever, or it still needs $10,000 worth of work that he's not going to spend on it. So he's just cashing them out. And I just don't think they're all worth that. So I don't know, man. I think I agree with you. This car has some bumps and bruises. I think he thinks it's worth more than it is. I think this car is going to fail to sell today. Whatever it lands at, I think it's going to be a no sale because I imagine the reserve is probably higher than it should be. So I wrote $79,000 last night. I'm struggling with that bid because I don't think it's going to reach there at all. So I think this car probably going to get bid up to, I'm going to say 70 grand, but I still think it's a no sale at 70,000.
You know, this driving video is absolutely awful, but it's so close to being right. They're obviously, I don't know, what are they, on the Jersey Shore or something like that? They're driving down the coast, which is what you want to romantically see in this car in a video, but, it's just done so poorly, guys. This video is the kind of video that could bring you an extra $10,000 if it were done right, because this car is not about handling and speed and performance. This car is about cruising, looking amazing, and being beautiful, and you want to feel that. This video ain't doing it. Get a newer iPhone. You don't need to have a big video crew to shoot something well. Get a good, even a brand new GoPro has a wider angle, and put it on your hat, or have somebody in the passenger seat. I want to see more of the inside of this car. I want to see you rowing through the gears, this ain't doing it. Sad but true. What was your number? 70?
I wrote 70 grand. Yeah.
And where is it at now?
40 with an hour and a half to go.
Yeah, I think it makes, I'll go 55. I'm going to go really soft on this thing. I just don't, there's such a fervor for stuff that's hot. I think things, obviously 911s, if it says 911 on it, we're like, I've got to get a 911 C4S.
Oh yeah, we saw that SC.
That
SC Coupe brought 50 grand the other day with like
Right.
200,000 miles on it.
So there's some big crazy numbers happening on the stuff that's popular and has always been popular, but the more obscure stuff, we saw that SLR, what was it, the Mercedes
McLaren.
SLR McLaren convertible, that should have been a $400,000 car and it didn't even break 300 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
stuff that's a
fail.
little bit more obscure, unless it's like a blue chip thing that everybody wants, I don't think the big numbers are coming up. Or really weird, like next big thing, like that Saab, I think could potentially be something.
Yeah,
I think people are looking for that car that's little. They're looking for the Dogecoin of sports cars. And Montreal Alfa Romeo is not it at all.
Yeah, there are plenty of them out there, though. It's really interesting how many
Yeah.
are always available in the marketplace. You never see them on the road, but you always see them in the classifieds and now on the auction platforms. So there you go, the Montreal. I tell you what, though, if somebody can get one dialed in for you, they are fun to drive. They're not amazing, but they're really fun. They sound good.
Well, set it up next time in the Bay Area, and let's go drive one. Let's go find one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure Rafi's got one in parts in his shed.
We'll trade him for a
All right,
Maserati. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, everybody. That was a Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars of the day on Cars and Bids, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, Hemmings, Rad For Sale, and all the other automotive enthusiast auction sites. So come hang out with us every Monday through Friday during the 9 o'clock hour, and we will, we'll do a show, man. And we'll talk about the most interesting cars, man. We got Hayden. We have Reese Hayden from Hyper Trash Magazine joining us as a third nerd tomorrow. So we've got a guest in the show, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys and him. Stick around. Actually, don't stick around. Go do something else and come back tomorrow. This is it. Bid Nerds. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace. No!